Hey guys, just so that you know, I'm cutting this audio in one take, so if I make any mistakes, deal with it. Check out this absolutely gorgeous Apple G4 QuickSilver 2002 model. This thing came to me for a unbelievable deal, in great shape. Look how clean it is. And what I want to do is some minor upgrades. The first thing I want to do is make sure that this thing works. And again, just look at this thing. Apple made some gorgeous computers back when Steve Jobs was in charge. The one thing that really pisses me off about the physical condition is this screw right here. It looks to me like someone took that apart and that screw is stripped and I can't quite do anything with it. But look at the back here. We have all of our ports here, FireWire, USB, and all that stuff. And here we just have the original specifications of the machine, so we'll see if it's been upgraded since then. So this looks like bare minimum, with the exception of the fact that it's an 800 megahertz processor. And we do have some minor scratches on there. And we have a zip drive here with a missing bezel, which is no big deal because I can find those on eBay. Here it looks like we have a DVD writer, which was not standard for these. So this was either upgraded or they skimped on everything else except for that. Our speakers here, and again, this thing pisses me off because again, this is stripped. I don't know what to do about this. This thing it wobbles, but it seems to hold. So I don't know. I'll figure out what to do about that. I'll either leave it like it is or whatever. But one of the great things about these G4s is they're so easy to open. You pull this thing up and bam, the guts of your computer are just right there, ready to be worked on. And let's take a look at the inside of this puppy. We got our G4 processor right there. Just look at that baby. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. Here's our optical drive bezel here with our zip drive below it. Here's our disk drive, which is an 80 gigabytes. So it looks like it had been upgraded since this machine was manufactured with our two other hard drive bays. Our other expansion slots are ATI, video card, 2 RAM stick, about 512 is most likely what that is. 512 megabytes. So let's get this thing fired up. And lucky for me, this thing just worked. Now I bought this thing without knowing whether it worked or not, and you know, I got it for a really cheap price, so I took a risk, but I was willing to try to fix it if it didn't work. But lucky for me, it did. So let's just take a little quick tour of this thing before we start messing around with stuff. So if we go to About This Mac, let's see here. We are running Tiger, which is 10.4.11, which I think was the max version supported on this hardware. 800 megahertz and 512 megabytes of RAM, which is what I suspected and also what it looked like from looking inside of it. And it's awesome. Opening up Firefox, there's actually some freaking updates. That is amazing that there's updates for Firefox. Now just for fun, let's open up WiBit.net. Now I got the timer. Let's see how long this takes. Now again, keep in mind, 512 megabytes of RAM. I mean, 2002. That's the time we're dealing with. The time frame we're dealing with. This is how la 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 la. Alright, 25 seconds. I remember taking 25 seconds to load websites, so that's not too horribly bad. Alright, let's bail out of Firefox, and let's see if we can test out this optical drive. I'm just going to put an audio CD in here because that should be the easiest thing for this thing to read. And I don't see it popping up on the desktop, so this is not a good sign. So I'm gonna have to go back in my stash and see if I have an optical drive that I can stick in here. And let's go ahead and pull the disk out and let's try that. So let's shut down this puppy, and hey, at least we have a restoration to do. So this isn't just a video of touring a QuickSilver G4. So let's go, get some work done. All right, so the first thing we want to do is obviously unplug everything, and especially the power, because nobody wants to get electrocuted, right? So we'll pull everything out, get it out of our way, and then do our little glorious opening of the guts. Oh God, I love that. We'll unplug our data IDE plugs, and then we'll unplug the power cables from the optical drive and the zip drive. And this thing is actually missing a screw from the bezel, but I have extra screws, so I'm gonna replace it. So I'll just pull the 2 screws out that are holding this thing in. So the fact that it's missing a screw is an indication to me that somebody had pulled this out at one time, either to install the zip drive or to upgrade this DVD drive. So once we have this out, we'll just go ahead and pull these screws out. So we got 2 on this side, and then we also have 2 on this side. And then just for the hell of it, I'm just gonna pull the zip drive out. And then it very easily, sometimes takes some force depending on how long this thing's been sitting in there and loving its spot. Go ahead and pull the optical drive out, and just for fun, I'll put the zip drive back in. Now here is a replacement DVD drive. Now I actually had to go through a few of them before I found one that worked, but the most important thing here is make sure it's in the master position. I noticed that the Pioneer model worked, but the one that I'm installing here did not work. But to spare you the actual action of watching me try multiple models, I'm showing you the first one that I installed. But just be patient and look online for other models that are more compatible with these. Some people say it doesn't matter, but I learned that it does. So don't listen to everybody. So I'm just gonna take a spare screw and stick it in here. And then the screws that I pulled out, I'm gonna stick one here and one back here, and now it's fully replaced and restored. So these screen grabs are from the Pioneer one that I stuck in. And let's see what happens with the audio CD, and bam! My audio CD is ready to rock. So now we have replaced the optical drive, and iTunes is ready to roll. Pretty awesome. Now the next thing that I want to do is replace the hard disk with something more solid. So I'm going to take this little gadget here that I've used multiple times in retro machines that have IDE interfaces. It just basically converts IDE to SD. So you can just use an SD card as your hard drive. So in this one I have a little teeny tiny micro SD 64 gigabyte. Now that's just what I have sitting around to test this out, just to see that it works. And if it works, then I'll buy a larger one, because this specific model supports larger drives. And I'm going to see if I can get macOS to install on here. So obviously the first thing that I want to do is pull the 80 gigabyte hard drive out. And I'm just going to make sure that everything plugs in here and fits. And yeah, okay. Looks like it'll stick in that area. Fine. Okay, no big deal. I'm also going to cut a little piece of cardboard for installation for it to sit on. So let's pull the hard drive out by taking this little screw out, and then the hard drive bezel slides out very easily after you do that. And underneath the hard drive are these little screws here. Just take these out, and once you do that, the hard drive is free. And there's a lot of dust down there. And for some stupid reason I put it in there with all the dust in there, but I thought that it was appropriate to grab the compressed air can. Well, after I screwed it in, of course. And blow the dust away. And I'm gonna grab my little cardboard insulation to put this on and wrap some electrical tape around it. Mainly the cardboard is to prevent any of those metal solder points on the bottom from making contact with any metal on any other piece of the machine, which could potentially cause a short, so that's basically what it's there for. Alright, so it's kind of held in place by that. Now, if you have two-sided tape, it kind of works better, but I'm just kind of being a little bit cheap and just kind of rolling up some electrical tape so I have something sticky so I can stick this down on the bezel so it holds itself in place. Later on I'll do something a little bit more permanent, but for the purposes of this, let's see, does it stick? Yeah, it seems a little bit sticky, but I'm not entirely happy, so let's pull this out. Now, I didn't show myself, but I unscrewed the bezel. And let me unplug it. I think I need a little bit of reinforcement. So here's kind of what it looks like. And, you know, it's nice and easy for me to replace this. So if I ever wanted to upgrade the size of the drive or replace it with a different one, it's no big deal. I'm just going to throw a couple of rubber bands around here just to give it a little bit of reinforcement. So if the computer is picked up and moved around, I can feel a little more comfortable that this thing's not going to fall around. Move around, fall off, whatever. Slide it back into position, screw it down. And let's plug it in. And I tested it. There's actually enough room on top for a second hard drive, and that little thing actually is hard. I think it's hardwired to be a master drive. Now here we have that bezel that's missing, and I got this part from Mac Memories. All I gotta do is slide the small end on the left side. On the right side, I got the long end. Now be very careful because you don't want to break it, so I'm just very gently with a screwdriver sliding it into its little nuck, and then just punching it in there. I kind of wish that the drive was silver so it kind of meshed in a little bit better, but that's okay. It still looks a lot better having that bezel in there. So with the Mac OS X Tiger CD installation disk in there, let's fire this thing up. Now, since that SD card has no operating system on it, it's going to automatically boot from that installation disk. So we're going to go through the Mac OS X installer, and you'll see here when it says select the destination volume, we don't have one because it's not formatted or anything. So let's go do that. We'll go up to Utilities, and we'll go to Disk Utilities. And in Disk Utilities, thankfully, it acknowledges the SD card, thinking that is actually a hard drive, and we'll go to Erase, and we will format it using the Mac OS extended volume type, and then we'll give it a name. I'm going to call it Macintosh HD, which is a common name for Macintosh hard drives where the system is installed. And we'll do Erase, and that's actually going to format the drive so that we can actually make use of it. Now this may take a little while. With some clever editing, you don't have to sit through it. So I'm going to close it, and now it recognizes it. So fantastic. So now we can click on it and click continue, and we can go ahead with the installation. So I will spare you because this is a long installation, especially from CD-ROMs, which is what I have. So we'll go right to the next part. Doopy 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 doo. Oh yeah. So this is that nice cool part of the installation where it says welcome in a bunch of different languages. Hey, what's going on? How you doing there, fella?
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, what's going on? Yeah, cool. Hey, what's happening? Hey. And then of course it comes up with that glorious X. X marks the spot. Tiger 10.4. Yeah, baby. Really brings back a lot of memories. Okay, I'll also spare you the setup part because anybody can set that up. So here's the desktop running on that SD card. So let's go to About This Mac, and we're just gonna take a look at a couple of things. Now all this looks the same except for it's running on 10.4. I should be able to run software update at the time of this recording, but if not, you can actually download the updates off of a website, which I will link below. So here we can do check out the hardware, look at ATA. You can see that it recognizes the hard drive. And if you go below, you can see there's the hard drive. Obviously, if it didn't recognize it, we wouldn't be able to run the operating system, which is, obvious. So we can also go to the hard disk just to really drill this in. Check out the info. There it is. So this is actually pretty cool. And the last thing here I want to do is make sure that the zip drive works, because I actually haven't tested it. And I stick a zip disk in there, and look at that. It works. It works like a champ. So I am so happy that I found this thing, especially for the price that I found it. And it ejects just perfectly fine. If you find one of these guys for cheap, I recommend getting it. It's fun to play with. It is an amazing piece of history, and during the Steve Jobs era at Apple, some amazing, really cool stuff was made, and I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.
Hey, buddy.